Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. Today, Orlando joins us from Montana. Orlando, good morning.
Good morning. How's the weather there in Houston?
Oh my God. Es un desastre, un infierno total.
Well, it's perfectly clear and 78 degrees here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so jealous about that. So, today we have a very interesting program. We're going to have two guests, and one is Cassy Garcia. She's running for Congress in the Texas District 28. And also, we're going to talk with Monica Pachon. She is a doctor in political science in Colombia. She lives in Colombia. She's from Colombia, and we're going to talk about the results in the Colombian presidential elections. So those are our two guests. And Orlando, I wanted you to talk about something that we were talking about off the air about the victory in Virginia, and also I wanted you to introduce Cassy Garcia.
Well, long time ago, I predicted the political shift along the Texas border because of what had been happening. I've lived there many years, and I noticed that the community was getting tired of the left trashing the border patrol, the police, the military, and I could see this shift coming. And of course, it's happening as we're all witnessing. I also made a statement long time ago that Hispanic women, Latinas, would save the Republican Party and that would keep Texas red. And of course, we've already seen that with Mayra Flores. And of course, we have Cassy Garcia running. And then we also have Monica de la Cruz. But let me tell you, it's not just happening in Texas. In Spanberg, Virginia, they just nominated the daughter of Hispanic immigrants, I think from El Salvador. She's a sheriff deputy in Virginia, and she was just nominated to represent the Republican Party for the 7th Congressional District in Virginia. Her name is Yesli Vega. And so we're actually on a roll. This is what we're witnessing, this political realignment, this shift to the conservative values in America and in Texas is unprecedented, but I can tell you it's only going to get bigger. And so, I've had the pleasure of meeting Cassy. She is a dynamic person and is going to be our next congresswoman from Texas. So we're delighted to have Cassy with us today and welcome her to the show.
Cassy, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Well, thanks for your time and thanks for being with us. And thank you so much for running for this position. And we're really excited. I mean, we were so happy seeing what is going on with Mayra Flores. And now that you're running also for this important position. So tell us about you, your background, and why you decide to run for that position.
Well, thank you so much, Orlando and Andrea, for having me on this morning. I'm Cassy Garcia, and I'm so honored to be the Republican nominee for Congressional District 28. I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley for the past 37 years, so I'm no stranger to the border, living on the border. I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. I went to church 3 times a week, and it was those values instilled in me as a child, and always wanted to get back into the community. I've served the last 17 years in public service, working, starting off in city government, working for nonprofits, and went to work for the state of Texas for the Department of Agriculture, doing economic development, and then the last decade working for Senator Ted Cruz as his deputy state director right down in McAllen, Texas. So I know the issues, I know South Texas, I know the people, and the reason why I'm running for Congress is to defend faith, family, and freedom. And so I'm so honored. And when we win in November, I will be the first Hispanic Latina to ever represent District 28 and the state of Texas. And we're so excited about Mayra Flores' win. It was the shift of the red wave. Orlando, you've been seeing this for the past decade here in South Texas. The momentum is here. The red wave is here. The red wave that sent Mayra Flores to Congress is the same red wave that's going to send Monica to Congress, and the same red wave that's going to send me to Congress in District 28, and the same red wave that's going to send Nancy Pelosi packing in November.
Cassie, I want to ask you a question because just as I said, we all grew up with our conservative Christian values, freedom loving. Many of us are immigrants, but many of us are multi generational Texans. You, for example, have just stated, as many other Hispanic women that are nominees for Congress, that you grew up with conservative values. So the parents and the older generation down along the border have been conservative for many years. But why the shift all of a sudden? And more particularly, why are Hispanic women stepping up to lead? I mean, you see this all over the state of Texas, but now you're seeing it in Virginia. What
You,
has
you
inspired Hispanic women to step up and lead?
Absolutely. You just mentioned Yesli Vega, who just won her primary last night, and I was with her on Saturday. Attended, I spoke at her rally in Virginia, in Woodbridge, Virginia, and so we actually did a segment together on Fox News talking about our conservative values and why we were going to take back the House come this November, and why the Biden administration's policies are affecting Hispanic communities throughout the country. Um, as we all know, the Democrat Party has walked away from the Hispanic community for so many years. Democrats have voted Democrat, but now they don't identify with the party or the direction that it's going in, which is further to the left. And my mother, growing up as a child, people ask me if if I grew up a Democrat. I didn't. I grew up in a conservative household. Both my parents were Republicans, and it was those values instilled in me. And even talking to friends now that I graduated in high school, said, Cassie, I'm a conservative too. I'm a Republican. I am pro God, pro family, pro country. And so if you look at the Democrats here in the Rio Grande Valley and throughout the border communities, they are conservative. They're pro life. And so I think now we're going to see that shift. Come this November, we're going to see a red tsunami, a red wave of Democrats that are saying, you know what, this district and District 20 has been Democrat controlled for over 110 years. Enough is enough. We need a better path forward, and I am the one who's going to unite and bring everybody together and work for everybody in District 28.
And
Um,
why women? Why women? What is it about the ladies down in South Texas that are causing them to step up and lead?
I think, talking like I grew up with a very strong mother who was very loving and supportive. I didn't come from a lot. I came from a middle class family. We worked very, very hard. My dad had two jobs. My dad was a teacher, and also, did everything he could to make ends meet. And so, my mom always said, "You can do anything you want to do." And she said, "Cassie, I never thought one day I'd be running for Congress." I am so happy. I am living the American dream. And I want everybody to live the American dream. And as women, as Latinas, we're stronghold. We know how to do things, put things together. We are leaders in the family. The mothers are the stronghold of every family, and it's so important to have a strong mother. And I'm so blessed that I did have one. And I want to be able to. I want other Latina girls to say, you know what, one day I too can run for Congress. And being on the campaign trail, talking to voters every single day, I've met so many Hispanic young women who said, Cassie, I never thought in my lifetime I would see a Hispanic Latina run for Congress. I'm so honored to have met you, and I can't wait to vote for you. And so people are inspired. I think they're seeing the rise of the Hispanic Latinas running. Example, Myra Flores, Monica De La Cruz. You have myself. We have Irene over in El Paso. We call it the squad there, where the trio or the triple threat, what you want to call it. And so, I think it's, Myra had you hear Myra's story of her growing up with her mother being an influence in her life. My mom has been my hero. She prays for me every single day. She would write notes, godly Bible scripture verses in my lunchbox every day to remind me that God was looking out for me every single day. And every day before I get up, I pray before I start my day. And I want to make sure that God is guiding me. Even before running for Congress, I prayed about it. I talked to my family. I talked to my fiance and said, is this something I should do? And God gave me he spoke to me in my heart and said that, yes, you need to save this country. And that's why I'm running for Congress.
It's just amazing to me. Not only are you, and I've said this to Republicans before and consultants, is that the way to reach the Hispanic community is through the mom, is through the
mhm.
Latinas, because Not only do we know that when we get out of line, they go for the chanclas, right? Give us a good old,
Or
Oh
the
yeah.
belt.
they give, they give us a good old whacking. But, I think conservative consultants, Republican consultants, don't understand the influence of Latinas in the family and in the community. But listen, it's not only running for Congress. I know that Adrian Pena ran for chairwoman of the Republican Party in the convention we just had in Houston. She fell a bit short, but at least she was running. We had our very own Leah Hagan actually ran for SREC chairwoman. She fell one vote short, but it's just amazing to me to see it not only at the grassroots level, but at local positions for city councils, for county positions, and for Congress. It's just phenomenal.
And I'll tell you this, Adrian Pena Garza, she has been at the forefront of this red wave. I had a picture pop up yesterday of 2014 when she was leading the efforts for Greg Abbott for block walking. I'm there speaking to everybody, the volunteers before they went out to go block walk for Greg Abbott in Harlingen, Texas. And this was in 2014. So Adrian has been on the forefront. If it hadn't been for her father, I would not have started working for Senator Cruz. Her dad approached me that Ted Cruz was looking for a regional director in South Texas. I applied. Then Congressman Chip Roy was Ted Cruz's chief of staff, and I was so blessed that Ted Cruz and Chip Roy hired me to be on their staff in 2013. And then in 2017, Senator Ted Cruz asked me if I would be his deputy state director and represent the state of Texas, and but still operate out of McAllen, Texas. So I'm doing this to save our country. We're at a crisis right now. You look what's happening on the southern border. It's a mess right now. I have the endorsement of the National Border Patrol Council. They've endorsed Henry Cuellar every cycle. And this year they did not endorse Henry Cuellar. They endorsed Cassy Garcia because they know, Henry Cuellar talks a good game. Talks about securing the border, but he's done absolutely nothing to secure our southern border. So I look forward to representing the agents and providing recovery and relief for them. And that's why we're going to take back the House come this November, because they need somebody who's going to step up and help them get the job done.
Cassie, what is the issues that is making South Texas making the difference and making the impact in the political ambience versus what is going on in the big cities like Houston, Dallas, Austin, that the community is completely different, the Latinos is different, and they try to lean to the left more than the right or more than the conservative. So what is the lag? What is the difference between South Texas and the rest of the state?
So when we look at South Texas, talking to the voters every single day, the district is made up of 80% Hispanic, 40% Catholic, and the district is very conservative. Even if you're a Democrat, you're a conservative Democrat. But at the end of the day, we're looking at the issues. They're going further to the left. The President Biden and the House Democrats are doing everything they can to destroy what is great to South Texas. We talk about the Biden border crisis. We talk about inflation. We talk about energy crisis. We talk about a shortage of baby formula. Now we're talking about a food shortage coming up in September. It's crisis after crisis after crisis. I think people need a better path forward. They need someone who's going to represent their values, the district, help every single buddy out, not just paid interest groups to serve only certain individuals in District 28. We need to serve everybody. They need true representation. We need to bring God back into our schools. We need to make sure that we're doing what's best for District 28, and we're seeing that with the voters right now. We went block walking yesterday with Tommy Hicks, the co-chair for the GOP, and people were inspired. People said they've been Democrat their whole entire life, but they came out and voted for me, and they can't wait to vote for me in November. And it was just amazing to see this wave. People are going to have come this November and come this fall when we're out there block walking. You were going to have a clear choice and say, do I want to vote for the status quo, Henry Cuellar, or do I want a better path forward and vote for Cassy Garcia? And we can flip this district red, and we will. We will flip this. We're going to work very hard to work to talk to every voter, to have town hall meetings, and make sure people get to know me as a candidate and know that I will represent their values and represent everyone in Congress, not just in District 28, but in the state of Texas as well.
Cassie, one of the major differences that I always hear between Democrats and Republicans, Democrats talk about handouts, they talk about programs, they talk about government welfare. And it seems to me they've made a huge mistake with respect to the Hispanic community because Most of the Latinos I know, we don't want a government handout. We don't want to be dependent on government. We don't want government telling us how to run our families. We want a good education. We want economic opportunity, and we want, you know, the best for our families. And it seems like the Democrats continue to offer the Latino community government incentives. Where as I listen to you and I listen to Monica and I listen to Maida, you know, you guys are about a bright future. You're about self determination. You're about telling people about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and freedom and economic opportunities. And you hit the nail on the head. You know, not only do we have crises after crises after crises at the border, but the economy is an unmitigated disaster. You know, Democrats still continue to blame. Just last week, there was a big spat between Exxon and Chevron and the Biden administration, where the Biden administration is attacking capitalism that makes investments in the fossil fuel industry. It's not, you know, oil is a commodity. It's like baby formula. When there's a shortage of it, the prices go up. And what people don't realize is the not only the Obama administration, but the Biden administration has done everything possible to limit production, which drives prices up. They shut down pipelines, they put up barriers, they discourage the private sector and bankers from loaning money to oil field development. And, you know, to me, it's, you know, the issues that you talk about and that our Republican nominee Latinas are talking about is economic opportunity. That's just a huge difference.
Mhm. You're absolutely right about that. And you know, we are conservative when it comes to social issues. And that's the one thing you talk about. You know, we're not about a handout, but a hand up, you know, and we see that they try to keep you down, you know. And I talk about the opportunities that we have here in our communities. You know, I didn't have to go to an Ivy League school. I was able to get my education here. And we talk about school choice. We need to let parents be able to make that choice where they want to send their child to school. We got to be able to let the dollar follow the child, you know, and give that economic freedom to our children. You know, talk about the American dream. You know, we are conservative on education, on social issues. You know, we're pro-gun, we're pro-life. We want lower taxes, religious freedom, and I think the Democrat Party has walked away from the Hispanic community, and that's why I think we're going to see people come over as we educate, talking about these RNC centers, these Hispanic centers that have opened up in Laredo, in McAllen, that have helped Myra out to reach out to the Hispanic community, talk about our issues, talk about why we're conservative. You know, they've done such a tremendous job. And while I served under President Trump, I was his commissioner for the White House Hispanic Prosperity Commission. We went around the country meeting. We did town hall meetings, we did stakeholder meetings talking about school choice and opportunity zones. You know, there's so much that the Republican Party, and now more than ever, we're seeing in Orlando. You've probably seen this too, that the desire to now embrace the Republican Party, you know, is, you can feel it. It's electrifying throughout the Rio Grande Valley, throughout South Texas and the nation. And I think we're going to see a huge shift. I know people are optimistic about it, but you know, talking to voters every single day, people are ready for a change. They truly are. You saw that with Myra Florida's historic win last Tuesday, her getting sworn in yesterday. We're going to see that with Monica's race and my race in District 28 and other races. Look at Yesli Vega over in Virginia. You know, people are excited and they're motivated. They're like, you know what? We're sick and tired of the Democrat policies that are destroying our country. Look at the Biden border crisis. We can't accept 12,000 migrants being apprehended every single day on our southern border. That is basically a caravan a day, every 2 days on our southern border. Enough is
Well,
enough.
and you know, it's just unfathomable to me that just last month, 250,000 uninspected illegal crossings occurred in our country. That's a crisis. I mean, I don't understand why people don't understand that a quarter of a million people just randomly decided to walk across our border into our communities. And let me tell you why that's tragic, Cassie, because you know this. Those people need a lot of social services, and those social services are paid for by the local property taxpayers in the state of Texas,
Mhm.
whether it's schools, whether it's federally qualified health clinics, whether it's emergency care through, because we have legislation called EMTALA that when someone presents themselves at an emergency room, you have to treat them regardless of ability to pay. All
That's right.
that is absorbed by the local taxpayer. And it's beyond me how members of Congress and this administration fail to help Texas. We're now having to use our own resources through the Department of Public Safety, take thousands of troopers from 254 counties in Texas that should be protecting those counties and moving them to the border to do what the Biden administration should have been doing. And now we're having to use the Texas National Guard resources to also supplement the border. And the Biden administration, I don't think he's come to the border, has he yet? Once?
He's never come to the board. And you hit the nail on the head, Orlando. It is not fair to the taxpayers and the families and communities that are having to pay for these services. It's not fair to them. The taxpayers didn't ask for this. The Biden administration, the state of Texas, it's not the state of Texas' job to secure our border. It is the federal government's responsibility to secure our southern border. And the fact that Joe Biden came to Uvalde, which is a very sad situation that we saw with the shooting that happened there, but the fact he was so close to the border, he's never been to the border ever once to the border. And the fact these border patrol agents are working tirelessly every single day to secure our southern border. It's their job is not to process. We need to watch the bad elements, the bad criminal activity that are coming into our country, those gotaways that are coming in that are not being caught by the border patrol. Border patrol needs to get back on the front lines, secure our border, stop the drugs, the flow of drugs that are coming in every single day. It's not fair. And Biden needs to step up. The administration needs to do its job and to enforce the laws on the books, secure our
And
border, bring back the
and
Trump era policies.
And Cassy, to make matters worse, now the Justice Department has decided to come after Border Patrol agents. It's just beyond me. I mean, it is a multi-pronged attack on our Border Patrol and the citizens of the state of Texas. The
You're
idea
absolutely right.
that the media would say that our Border Patrol was whipping immigrants, when you and I know, Cassie, that 80% of the operations of Border Patrol are life-saving. We just lost a National Guard trooper trying to save an illegal alien from the Rio Grande River. He lost his life. And our Border Patrol routinely carry water, call in medevac, save people from death in the heat. And now the Department of Justice, through the Biden administration, is attacking our Border Patrol agents. You can't make this stuff up.
It's a disgrace. It is a disgrace, and it sickens me that when Jen Psaki was the press secretary, it took days for them to even make a statement. He was we lost a National Guardsman. He was an American hero who saved two migrants who, and the whipping incident that came out. Our Border Patrol agents are heroes. We had two Border Patrol agents, a BORTAC and a BORSTAR agent that took down the evil killer in Uvalde, Texas. Did the administration come out and even praise our Border Patrol agents? No, they did not. They don't have their back. The morale is so low right now. And one thing that Myra Flotis is married to a Border Patrol agent. My fiance is a Border Patrol agent as well, 27 years in with DHS. And so I hear every single day their frustrations, and I talk to the union as well. I have a very close relationship with the Border Patrol agents. They're my family, they're my neighbors, and so the fact that the administration does not have their back is sickening. And you talk about the resources being strained. You talk to local law enforcement agencies, sheriffs. They have 5 deputies in some of these counties, and they're using their deputies to go out and make apprehensions. And the same thing goes to the local law enforcement as well. So they are tying up resources. At the end of the day, you talk to the local elected officials here, like the mayors, the county judges, who I had great relationships with them when I worked for Ted Cruz, and not even now we're running as a congresswoman. They are frustrated that the administration has not even reached out to them. When I worked for Senator Cruz, a Democrat county judge was saying, Cassy, I heard more from the Trump administration. I can't even get a peep out of this administration. I'm like, oh, call Congressman Cuellar, call Vicente Gonzalez. Maybe they can get you a meeting with the administration. It is absolutely insane what we're seeing from this administration. And because of this crisis, I mark my words right now, we are going to see this district flip. I went door knocking yesterday, knocked on a door of a Border Patrol agent. And he said,
Cat,
I voted for you. And he was said, Cassy, please come save us, help us. We need help. It's falling apart. Our morale is so low. And I shook his hand. I looked at his son. I said, we are going to work every single day. And I said, what can I do for you? He's like, go knock on every door, Democrat, Republican. Please, we need help right now at our border. So that is just, I got emotional yesterday and I said, this is why I'm running for Congress, because they need new leadership. House Democrats have done absolutely nothing to secure a border and they need change right now.
Cassy, thank you so much for your time, and we gonna be, supporting you from now till November.
If I can just say one more thing real quickly, if you want to donate or volunteer, please go to CassyForCongress.com. And if you want to join our Red Wave and help us out anywhere in the state of Texas, we are looking for volunteers and we're ready to do this together, because together we can flip this seat. So thank you so much, Andrea and Orlando, for having me on today, and look forward to speaking you with more about as our campaign progresses forward.
Thank
Good
you
luck
so
and God
much.
bless.
Thank you. God bless y'all.
Well, something that also happened in Colombia recently, this past Sunday, it was the runoff for the presidential elections. And for the first time, we're also making history, not in a good way. Colombia elect a president from the left for the first time, and he is Gustavo Petro. And that's why we wanted to invite a political science, Dr. Monica Pachon. She is from Colombia. She lives in Colombia, and she has her PhD also in the university in California, in San Diego. So we want her to give us an insight of what is going on right now in Colombia, what it can be the consequence for Colombia with winning a president from the left, and what it can be also the consequence with the political international. Mónica, buenos días. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me in your program. As you were saying, on Sunday we had a very contested election between Rodolfo Hernandez, who was a mayor in Bucaramanga, it's a small city, intermediate city in Colombia, against Gustavo Petro, who's running for, I think, a coalition of social movements called Pacto Histórico. He won by 50.44% against Rodolfo Hernandez 47.31%. Um, this, as you said, is a big departure from our recent history in politics. I think there are a number of things that can explain, this change. And looking forward to your questions, so we can start uh, answering, whatever people want to know about the election.
Monica,
Perfect.
Orlando is from Cuba, and he left Cuba when he was 6 years old, and he can tell you more about it. And because what is going on in Cuba and Venezuela now, we're seeing the same movie, and we were afraid in Colombia. I'm from Colombia, and we were so afraid that this is going to happen. And Gustavo Petro tried twice, and he finally won in Colombia. So I mean,
May I?
what is the feeling in Colombia about this?
Okay, I may suggest some differences between Venezuela and Colombia. First, Venezuela it was an oil dependent, right, economy. More than 70% of the GDP was managed by the state. And so when obviously there was the change, political change, that meant an enormous amount of power on behalf of the government. In the case of Colombia, we have most, of the GDP is private. So we do have oil dependency because we have an important amount of royalties that are used for social welfare and state expenditure. But my expert feeling is that we are facing different situations. In the case of Venezuela, because of the combination of these corporate Fede Cámaras, PDVSA, and the state, we were more in a corporate world, in a corporate government. In the case of Colombia, we do have stronger institutions, I would say. Congress does not hold a majority for Gustavo Petro. Um, there's a lot of people who are, making opposition to Gustavo Petro, but definitely we are facing a challenge in terms of what he wants to do and what the role of the state is going to look like if he is able to change the policies he's proposed during the campaign. Especially I think the social divide between Rodolfo Hernandez and Gustavo Petro can be summarized in terms of his macroeconomic policy and his view of the state. While, as you were saying, a more conservative view would hold the state accountable for certain public goods. In the case of Gustavo Petro, what he's suggesting is that the state has to be a provider. And he, in during his campaign, was very, very challenging of the private sector, saying, that they were intermediaries, that the the private markets to provide public services were inefficient and corrupt. And so I think this is the strong divide now. Before, in Colombia, our divide was more um, given by Álvaro Uribe Vélez, who was a very successful president back in 2002 till 2010. And of course, the guerrilla warfare conflict that we have in Colombia, uh, I think that was the divide between the forces. Now we're talking about a more, I would say, normal divide in terms of economic policy and the role of the state. But my maybe hopeful feeling is that institutions such as the Constitutional Court or Congress or even the decentralization we face uh, is going to make Gustavo Petro re- recenter a little and also moderate his policy proposals. Right now, he's announcing cabinet members who are, orthodox economists. They're not, heterodox economists who want to have, double-digit inflations or do not care about macroeconomic indicators. So I think what he's trying to do is to give a signal to the market that he's going to have a policy that is, economically responsible. But of course, there's so much uncertainty about this change, about his vice president, and there's a lot of people who surround him that are very, very radical. And so the question will be more so if he can negotiate with other parties. I think that's going to be easy. What I think is the question is if he can handle the expectations of his own more radical forces.
Professor Pachon, I have a question. Colombia spent a lot of time trying to fight narco terrorism and narco trafficking back in the 80s and into the 90s. And of course, um, it, my concern is will we see a shift back to sort of a partnership between the government and potential narco trafficking in Colombia, or is Petro committed to fighting the scourge of the narco state?
Well, I there's a big question mark in that area, Orlando. So far, Gustavo Petro has said that he's not going to do aerial dispersion to to cocaine to coca leaf production areas, and this is a change from the government of Ivan Duque. He said that he wants to reinstate his relations with Venezuela, and he just announced that. Um, and regarding the relationship with drug traffickers, I think it's a hard question, because in the 90s we had drug cartels that were very big and very influential and could capture the state. I would say that we are in a different situation right now. Cartels, big cartels, are in Mexico mostly. Colombia has small cartels, small drug traffickers. They do influence very many uh, areas of politics and territory across this the our yes, across our territory. But I would say that the state in Colombia can be, allied in certain areas, maybe the Pacific coast. You can see local politicians being captured by these drug traffickers, but in other areas of the territory, what you see is Colombians and the state being a victim of these organizations because they cannot fight them, and so they end up dying. And let me remind you, our biggest cartels are guerrillas, right? So we have ELN, that is, closely allied with Venezuela, Venezuelan leaders. They have had an increase of drug traffic routes through Venezuela. We have had an increase of the amount of coca leaf production in that side of the country. So we're not talking about regular drug cartels in Colombia. We're talking about basically people who are armed and are against the status quo and are using this money to obviously get rich, but also to fight against the state. And we've seen so far an increase in deaths by social activists in this region. We've seen attacks to the military that were not part of what was happening before. And this also is related to FARC, right? The fact that FARC demobilized, left an empty space for somebody to fill. And ELN is being super aggressive in being in that space, right? And able capturing that market.
Very
Monica,
interesting.
what do you think it will be the international political impact with this, with being Gustavo Petro the new president?
Well, I would say that in the region, we're having a little bit of a you know happy movement to the left, in terms of there's a lot of presidents that are um, um, consider themselves leftists and are happy because Gustavo Petro is joining in. They know Colombia is a strong ally of the United States, and they somehow see an opportunity for Colombia to be more critical and more, how do I say it, more conditional on this relationship. Most people on the left say we are unconditional to the United States, and so what they want is more to see Colombia having more strong stances. But I would say that the left governments in Latin America are not having a good time locally, domestically. In the past, they were having um, a boom, natural resource boom, with money flowing, Venezuela, Brazil. They had so much resources that they could actually think about diplomacy and being proactive and having a relationship with other partners, China. But right now, I think governments are passing through a lot of trouble, and I don't think we will see like a continental force or of that sort. And I think Gustavo Petro understands the deepness and importance of their relationship with the U.S. The U.S. has been critical in implementing the peace process agreement, critical in helping in the areas where the state cannot be present because they don't have the money or the resources to be there. And so, if Petro was very strong, it was speaking very strongly before in the campaign. Right now, his tweets are like, "Oh, I just hang out with President Biden, and we're so happy, and we're going to strong our ties together and stuff like that." So I would say that clearly he's showing a different self from what he was in the campaign. But we all know who he is, right? So there's time to give him to have some hope in terms of not him being so radical. But of course, we're uncertain about what is going to happen in the near future because we don't know, right? What he has done in the past leaves a lot of question marks.
You bring up a good point, and that is that the shift towards more socialist, left leaning leaders in Latin America uh, is, in my opinion, exacerbating the economic situation. Because, as you clearly point out, the only thing that the left and the socialists, the pure socialists, that is, those that want government owned enterprises, right, do, and they do it very well, is deplete national resources. They run the infrastructure into the ground. Look at PDVSA. Look at the Brazilian oil companies. Uh, Look at even in AMLO in Mexico. They're not having a very good time over there, and so yes, when natural resources are high and they're producing and they're refining, the state makes a lot of money, but they squander that money. They use it inappropriately. They don't reinvest in the infrastructure. And so, therefore, production declines, the economy declines. And so, the socialist leaders of Latin America have done one thing well, and that is ruin economies. And then the question I have for you is, does this exacerbate the illegal immigration problem in the United States? As countries become more economically distressed, I think that, the tendency towards not only legal immigration, because I've always said that one of the benefits that America, the United States, receives from left leaning governments is that sort of the brain drain, right? That the well to do, the capitalists, the professors, the doctors, the engineers, the lawyers all migrate to the United States. And we in the
Mm-hmm.
United States benefit. But there is also another side to it, is that the poorer families that are trying to feed their families have no choice but to come illegally. So, does these left leaning governments exacerbate the illegal immigration problem in the United States?
Well, I think we have, I don't know the numbers. I'm not an expert on immigration. So what I'm going to say is my own experience of looking at the news and being here. We are facing a situation, an economic difficult situation in Colombia. Our economy is not as well as it was prior to the pandemic. We were facing a little bit of a slowdown in our economy, but right now, we after the pandemic, despite the fact that the economy is increasing at fast rates, we're still having issues. So of course people are going to migrate. I've known people who migrate and leave Colombia and decide just to go to the US with you know a tourist visa to find a better future. And they were professionals here, or they were having they were in the service market, and they decide to leave Colombia because they don't find opportunity. And yes, the first place where people, Colombians, go and think to go, is is the U.S. The barrier, the language barrier may be a problem for some, and they may think it's a problem, so they may go try and go to Spain
Hmm.
or the European Union. in Portugal, or I don't know. Portugal is right now it's more attractive than it used to be before. But I would say yes. If the economy doesn't do well, people tend to migrate, and we all have people in. I mean, all Colombians have people who have migrated elsewhere. I am the daughter of a family of two sisters, and one of my sisters is in Canada, and the other is a U.S. citizen and is in New York. So, yes, everybody migrates
Yeah.
because if they can, they will.
Okay, well, definitely we're gonna keep watching the situation in Colombia. As you say, everything is uncertain. We don't know what is gonna happen. They say something, they promise something, they do another thing. So hopefully, and
This is
for the best of
this is
not only for
Andrea,
Colombia, for the
this is
Colombians,
the case,
and for
right?
the international politics, hopefully Gustavo Petro is not gonna be another Maduro or Chavez. Just pray for that.
Yes. Well, this is the problem, I think, when people have a mandate and they break their mandate, right? It, we would like people to have a sincere campaign on what they're going to do, but I don't think this is going to be the case, and I hopefully think I hope that it's not going to be the case. I hope he changes his mind, because of course there's a lot at stake, as you said.
Okay, Mónica, thank you so much for your time. Muchísimas gracias por haber estado con nosotros.
Gracias a ustedes por la invitación. Perdón mi voz, que estoy enferma.
No, ya sé, me dijiste, me advertiste, pero no, gracias por tu tiempo.
Bueno, bye bye.
Bye. Well, Orlando. Oh, Orlando. Are you there, Orlando? Oh, you're muted,
I am.
Orlando.
No, I'm
Okay.
here.
Oh, you were muted. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's
Well, all right.
fascinating.
Another great show. I appreciate you getting all these guests on, and I thought it was a very informative show. Again, I'm really excited about the Latino wave that's hitting the conservative movement across the state of Texas and in this country. Some time ago we had a professional boxer, Latino, who's running for Congress out of Nevada. I mean, it's just not the ladies, but the ladies are really stepping up. So I'm really encouraged. And I look forward to the coming months as we move into the November election. I think great things are going to happen for the state of Texas. I still think it's just traumatic. It's horrible. It's a disgrace what the Biden administration is doing along the Texas border. But there's nothing we can do. As Texans, we'll have to fix the problem ourselves and hope that there is an administration change in 2 more years. But I don't know that we can last that long. So anyway, Andrea, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Te veo el próximo miércoles. Gracias, Orlando. And thanks everybody for watching our show. Please log in TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. Visit us. We're always posting our events. And please become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you want to give us another extra contribution, we're very well accepted. And please visit us, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday in TLC Live. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao.